Lord Michael Bates and your ladyship in our studio for China's Big Talk. Michael, you have personally participated in many charity events, and last week, the end of July, you started this walking campaign all the way from Beijing to Hangzhou. So, but this time was a little bit different, a photography competition. So, what are the thoughts?
Well, the thoughts were, one, for the past 4 years, Shirley and I have been undertaking each summer. We get a long recess in Parliament, and we've used that recess to try and do some good, to raise some funds for charity, and to promote friendship, peace and understanding through our walking. And so I've walked through 18 countries. China is the 18th country in which I've walked. And I've walked during that time about 7,500 kilometers. We've raised over 117,000 pounds, more than £1 million renminbi, for charity. And so this time it was China's turn. And of course we wanted to start in Beijing because that's the heart of things. But also Hangzhou is what has been the most beautiful city in China, is also Shirley's hometown.
Oh, that's why.
And so we thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to try and reach Hangzhou in this year.
I see. This time you are going to represent this important role in this photography competition. So personally, I'm curious, do you like photography, or what do you shoot with, like in daily life?
Yeah, I'm very keen on photography. And on my walks, often, I get to see some amazing sights that you never get the chance to see when you're flying in an aeroplane or driving in a car or in a train or too busy. But when you're walking, you see light and shade, scenes, people, and places that just demand to be captured. And I always use I don't think I'm allowed to say on commercial television.
A GoPro?
No, I use an iPhone.
iPhone, okay.
So I have an iPhone 6 at the moment, but I've also used BlackBerry just to ensure that I'm balanced. I should say that I've also tried Huawei and I've tried Samsung.
That's
so
very down to earth.
I don't try
Huawei.
to.
Yes.
But I like the immediacy of a quick picture. Just captures a moment. And they bring back great memories. So I take a lot of photographs, which Shirley uploads onto WeChat and Weibo, and also we put on our website as well.
Cool. Let's get back to some really serious topics, because this year is very significant for China and UK diplomatic relations, because our President Xi will be visiting UK very shortly, actually next month. So what do you expect from this major high-level exchange, like from your perspective?
Yes, I think it is very significant, and that was one of the reasons why this year in particular I wanted to undertake this walk in China, because it is the first UK-China year of cultural exchange, which Premier Xi Jinping announced. And it seemed to fit with that it's an exchange in culture. Walking is a culture, photographs are a culture, and there are ways in which we communicate with each other. But also, of course, there's a stronger reason for that. It is economic, of course. Trade is very important between the two countries. Education is a very important part of that. But increasingly, in an uncertain global world, having major powers like China and the UK working together in partnership rather than working against each other is in the interests of a more peaceful and harmonious world.
The peaceful walk you initiated from Beijing to Hangzhou also is to commemorate the overall success of the anti-fascist war in China, like 70 years anniversary. Why are you using this theme, and what are the highlights going to be during your whole walk?
Well, it's a big theme here in China, but also in the UK, as we mark 70 years since the end of a war. Last year we marked 100 years since the beginning of a war in Europe in the First World War. But as I walk for peace, I'm always more satisfied when we actually mark the end of a war and a period of peace, the founding of the United Nations, in which China and the UK were founder members of that institution, and a desire to stop future conflicts from happening. And I think that it has been largely successful during that period of time. So I think that that is something worth marking, worth celebrating. And sometimes, history clouds our vision. Sometimes we perhaps think back into history and we think of the Cold War era and some of the tensions which existed around the world. But actually, if you go back just a little bit further, China and the UK stood shoulder to shoulder as allies in seeking to defeat a very aggressive form of militarism. And during my walk, I will visit some very significant sites, some very painful sites. I know that when I get to Nanjing, the site of the genocide, that will be a very difficult period, a very difficult chapter. And it is very important, in my view, to say, listen, the past, it's important that we remember the past, but we can't live in the past. We need to move to the future, and we need to build a better world so that the type of things that happened in Nanjing, in Chongqing, in London, in Birmingham, don't happen again.
Let's see. Speaking of a China-UK ally here, I mean, we are the witness of a perfect example here, you guys. And you have a Chinese wife, obviously.
Yes.
Do you mind talking about how do you guys meet up first, and which part of the interest developed first? Your interest in China or your interest in your wife developed first?
Well, I have to defer the answer to that one to my wife, because I often say that I've fallen in love with China, and basically I mean I've fallen in love with my wife. So you please. Tell it as you see it.
Michael said, he loved Chinese culture, like Chinese people. He has some, good friends. He has been visited China many times. But I've been involved lots of charitable work in the last 10, 15 years. I just love to give back to something to the society. And one day, just another good friend asked me whether I can help to host a delegation from North Korea. Visit UK and asked me whether I can host a dinner at home for 20 people. And I said, sure, no problem. So I cooked Chinese food for 20 people.
What did you cook? Do you still remember the food?
Yes, crispy duck pancake.
Oh, that's classic.
The dream food.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I was hooked.
Sure. Yes.
I cooked the dinner at home, and Michael is one of the guests. He came, and he thought I was a cook.
So he got hooked up by your food for the first time,
yes.
actually.
But it was the strange thing was it was the day before I was heading off on my first walk to mark the Olympic truce, walking from Olympia in Greece to London, and I told Sherlyn about this, and she got very interested and enthused about it because of her charitable work, and she was a great support all the way through the walk. Came out to see me many times, and when I reached on my walk Paris on New Year's Eve, underneath the Eiffel Tower, I proposed to her on bended knee. And she said no. I mean, she said yes.
So with a Chinese wife here, because this almost becomes like a cliche for important foreign guests in China. I mean, they started as guests, but they just gradually developed themselves into permanent residents. Do you consider yourself as a non-official cultural ambassador to China now?
I think that we are very sort of precise in our terminology in British culture. So we have to be very careful lest I get a slap on the wrist from the British ambassador in Beijing, who's a very capable lady and a very good ambassador for the UK. But I understand diplomacy works at a number of levels, but I think that it is open to all of us to engage in a kind of diplomacy. And personal diplomacy is, to me, something which anyone can engage in. This program is cultural diplomacy. China Daily is cultural diplomacy. It's reaching out and communicating with people in a different country from a different culture, and they're saying, hey, listen, here are some things, there might be differences, but here's a lot of things that we're exactly the same on. And so when I walk through the the streets and have walked on my walk so far, I've been overwhelmed by the kindness and hospitality of people. It is far more than I've experienced in any other country. And people coming out and just wanting to give you a bottle of water, or even I got an ice cream the other day,
An ice cream.
which was very welcome indeed. But people are just so generous and so kind. And I think what they recognise is that you know, I'm not coming, you know, with a long cavalcade and a big set of agendas and a trail of businessmen hoping to sign deals in the background. It's just two people who love each other and also happen to love and respect our respective cultures and countries, wanting to actually share some of that with the people that we meet along the way.
I see.
But during all these walks, actually Michael writes his blogs every day.
Oh.
Yeah, so, you know, during this trip again, there's a blog on the website, and he wrote every day what happened, how, you know, he thought, and, you know, tell the China story, the real China story.
So you'll be getting a mention tomorrow.
Yeah. So at the end of the thing, you can also publish a book about China.
Yes, definitely.
No,
I think it's a good idea.
No,
That's
I
too
think
cliche.
sometimes books. I mean, you know, a number of people, publishers, have kindly suggested I write a book, but I think some of the most wonderful experiences that you have in life are the ones that are just for you, and you experience together, and you cannot really communicate them to anyone else. So I'm not so sure on the book idea, but the blog and the photographs, certainly.
Absolutely. So I wish you guys will have so much fun today at the photography competition today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today.